Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and this is Shakthi Hari. In this video we are going to talk about one of my favorite things to do every single year, 36 days of type challenge. Now what exactly is this 36 days of type challenge? It is an online challenge where designers, artists and people from all around the globe come together for 36 straight consecutive days and create or design the alphabets A to Z and the numerals 0 to 9. Sometimes the ampersand and the hashtag. That's totally up to the people who are creating it. How did this challenge start? Well, there were two designers named Nina Sanz and Rafa Goicoechea who wanted to do personal projects. And cleverly, they picked up the alphabets and the numerals. They started a side project where they designed these things for 36 consecutive days and they started sharing this work on Instagram with the hashtag 36 days of type. Thanks to them, right now we have a wonderful community of thousands and thousands of people participating in this challenge every single year. And recently, the challenge has been sponsored by firms like Adobe, FontSelf, etc. Now, who is this challenge for? Who can participate? You can be a 7-year-old kid with just a pencil and a paper. You can be a 80-year-old woman who has retired and living a beautiful life. All you need is the commitment and grit to stick to the challenge and create something for 36 consecutive days. Let me give you 5 reasons why I think you should participate in this challenge. Number 1, consistency or building a habit. Most of the designers I know, including myself, have difficulty in sticking to something for a longer period of time until it becomes a habit. I found that this was a wonderful opportunity for me to just, take the prompt and design something continuously for a month. When I started participating in this challenge, it was all fun. It was all about exploring and finding a style and whatnot. This had become one of my yearly ritual that when I missed it last year, I felt a huge FOMO. So if you are someone looking to create a habit of creating something every day, or if you are someone who wants to find your style, this is the wonderful opportunity. Number 2, personal projects or material for your portfolio. One of the things which designers also struggle with is finding time for their personal projects, or at least, we rant things about not finding time. You always make time for the things you prioritize, right? If you're looking to find your style, experiment different medium and get into typography and leverage the usage of hashtags, please get into it. This is the right time and opportunity. Number 3 is validation or feedback. Now, I'm a huge believer of not seeking validation from external people, especially when it comes to art, because art and design are subjective. But if you're starting out, if you are someone who's in constant need of motivation or validation from people, if you need someone to keep telling you that you are doing a better job, please make use of it. There's nothing wrong in it. When you keep sharing your work for 36 straight days, people start noticing you. They give valid feedback, share criticism, and this is a place where you can also make friends for life. Number 4 is getting noticed. Like I said, this is a challenge that's taken by thousands and thousands of people, not just designers, but also potential clients. So this is a place where you can leverage the use of hashtags, get noticed, and sometimes luck might just knock your door. Now, believe me when I say luck favors the bold, fortune favors the bold. So you create stuff, you keep creating it, that attracts clients towards you. Remember, personal projects are what attracts clients. And the number 5, and my favorite thing in this entire list, is satisfaction. When I say satisfaction, it's not the satisfaction of creating a perfect piece of art, but the satisfaction of creating something for 36 consecutive days. I personally need this constant release of dopamine or serotonin, and my mind, make use of this wonder hormones from your brain and keep creating art that inspires people. These are the 5 points which I think might get you into participating in this challenge. So think about it, leverage the opportunity. Now let's talk about finding a theme or the style for the challenge. Most of the times people talk about personal style, and personal style is a byproduct of experimenting, iterating n number of times, right? So it's totally up to you to keep experimenting until a point where you like certain number of colors, certain color palette, certain brushes, certain textures. And once you find that, it's going to be a style for a while, or at least for the time being. So if you get time before jumping into the challenge, or even if you're into the challenge already, keep experimenting, keep loving the colors, look for the values and how they complement each other. It can even be just a black and white illustration or a black and white type design. All it needs is an aesthetic view to it. And the second thing about picking the theme is the style or the approach to your participation. Now, there are various ways of designing or writing the letters, right? You can be a motion graphic artist, you can be an illustrator, you can be a typography artist. So I personally split this into 5 different categories so that you can choose one thing and keep doing it for the 36 days. Number one would be typography or type design, and within this we have 2 different categories. If you are someone who's hardcore type designer, your goal for participating in the challenge is to create a font. By end of the challenge, you have to create a functional typeface every single day. So create letters that are functional, that can actually make a font. And there are people who do hand lettering, who do creative typography, or I may call it expressive typography. You might use unconventional ways of creating a piece of letter every single day. This expressive type, I feel, has a characteristic to it. It reflects the minds of the designers or the artists. I'll do a self-marketing point here. So I have a new account where I share my lettering and typography experiments from. It's called Shack Letters. You can find the link below in the description of this video. And the second category of picking a style would be illustrations. Of course, we have different forms, and it can be a flat vector illustration, it can be a raster illustration, it can be any kind of illustration. So if you are someone who's looking to fine-tune your illustration skills or get started with illustrations, again, this is a wonderful opportunity. You just have to draw the letters or depict the letters using illustrations. It can be either in a direct way or using negative space, where the space left out from your illustrations actually create the letter forms. Number 3 in this category would be 3D design. So 3D has been one of the upcoming trends in the design industry. So I've seen people who actually want to try and learn tools like Blender and C4D. They never get time to do it. So you can actually leverage this 36 days of type challenge and keep learning the tool, learn the interface, do wonderful renders. And number 4 will be motion design or animation or kinetic type. Now again, within animation, there are different styles of doing animation. One can be motion design, which you actually do with tools like After Effects, and you also have the classic frame by frame animation where you can morph the letters into different forms. And the last one within this motion design stuff is kinetic type, where you actually have the letter and you animate the letter or the word or whatever that depicts the letter or the number. You create a loop of the animations of the type. And the last category, which I think is for a new set of audience, is creative coding. I've seen people use CSS and JavaScript to actually create the letter forms and animate them using codes. So if you are a front-end developer who wants to fine-tune his skills in front-end developing, especially for web design, this is the wonderful time and opportunity to do it. I just gave you 5 reasons why you should start this challenge, and I also talked about finding a style and picking a color palette. And by the time I'm recording this video, the challenge is going to start tomorrow, and I haven't started with finding my style or something for this year. So I'm going to do it right now. Without further ado, let's get into it. And since we are getting started tomorrow, we can have the alphabet A. And one more thing about this, try to pick either just the uppercase letter or the lowercase letter and stick to it for the entire challenge, so that you don't get confused in between. And if you're confident about switching between these letters, or if you're confident about doing both, please go for it. But sticking to one particular style or one particular case is going to help you a lot. So we have the lowercase letter. And now, when you think about expressive type, I personally feel that lowercase letters have a lot of characteristics to it. Instead of just going with straight lines and edges, you have all the curves which you can play around with. So I'm gonna pick the lowercase letter and see what I can come up with. Of course, I'm gonna have square spaces so that since it's for Instagram, picking a square image size would be good. So I'm gonna do a regular lettering style A. So this can be one. This can be one. And remember, A in the smaller case can be written like this or like this. So we have to select one of these styles and keep experimenting. Let me pick one of this. Interesting. But this also looks like yes. So I'll probably drop this. So these are the different ways in which you can actually do expressive type treatment with the letter A. And I ran out of ideas when I reached here with the small letters, so I just went on with the capital casing. So this is how you experiment with the different letter forms. And now let's see how we can come up with ideas for illustrations using the letter forms. Now the idea behind using illustrations or fine tuning your illustration skills is that you pick a theme that goes well with the letter as well as supports the theme which you're picking. Say, for example, if my theme is something related to animals or birds or mythical creatures, so you find a bird or an animal or a mythical creature whose name actually starts with the letter A so that it adds value to the letter form which you're creating. So that might be one of the illustration styles. And another way to do it is to create an environmental scene out of objects or of the nature or of the things that you find around you. For example, you might have a pen and probably a ruler with an eraser sitting in between these two. So when you look at this as a composition, this gives you the letter A. So this is one of the ways to imagine or see things or use things which are around you to form the letters. And let me give you another example of where you can actually use negative space for the illustrations. I might imagine a horizon and so I have a road that runs through the horizon in front of me. I have beautiful mountains. And some trees around it. Now, if you could see the line of the horizon or the line where the land actually ends and the road actually gives me a structure for my letter A. All I need to do now is to find the negative space that falls in between. In which case, in our case, you have to find this part and you have to find this part. Now it's up to you to totally imagine what these two objects might be. Right now, what crosses my mind is that I imagine a car probably chasing a bike since this is a road. So, so I have a car in front of me, and here I probably have a superhero riding a bike trying to escape from this car, and this might as well be a police car. So this is a way of imagining things that occupy the space in the entire area so that the negative space becomes the letter which you want to create. I'll give you another example, and this was something which I did in 2019, I guess. So I imagined a lady, and from her shoulder is a bag hanging. Now this entire structure gives you the letter form A. So when you start illustrating this, you have to pick colors so that the letter form has a good contrast that helps it differentiate from the background and the object itself. In this case, it's going to be the lady, and in this case, it's going to be the road, and you have the motorbike and the car. So obviously, since the road is going to be black, you're going to pick light colors for the cape the guy is wearing and the color of the car, so that this gives you a good or enough contrast for the letter to be visibly seen. And for this year's challenge, I've been experimenting a couple of things with a few letter forms. So this is something which I don't like, so I'm just gonna pass it. I had a letter like this. This actually looked interesting because this has a good level of contrast, or I would say it occupies the entire space and it's like enlarged to fit the canvas, which is like my kind of style. So I like this a lot, but I'm gonna keep this in and keep experimenting. And this was something which I wanted to try with the uppercase letters. Again, not a big fan of this. When you actually have something like this, if you have a doubt where you don't know how it's going to work out, you just try to create the next set of letters using the same style so that you get a sense of how the letters actually might turn out. So in this case, this is not turning out good, so just going to pass. And I have this interesting thing. So I was just scribbling and I was just doing circular motions, and this suddenly came up. This is actually really good because the curves and the scribbles, it gives a characteristic to the letter. So if used with a good color palette, this is going to stand out really really good. I really like this because it actually gives you a feel of when you see this, there's a lot happening in this output, right? So you have the tail and the body, the bulging, and the negative space formed by this space within the letter, and you have the jiggly thing that's attached as the tail to the letter. So this particular letter form has a good characteristic to it, and I particularly like this color. The same thing visualized, using textures or gradients. I was just playing around with the spray brush in this case. So this is how I imagine the B to be for the next set of letters coming up. So the colors are pretty much inverted because when you actually see it on Instagram, using alternate colors after you pick up a palette is going to help you form a beautiful grid when you keep scrolling through the letters. About the illustration part, right? I actually wanted to pick a set of mythical creatures which I can incorporate with the letters and try to illustrate them. So I've been wanting to do mythical creatures for a long time now. The creature or the mythical creature Airavat. Airavat is nothing but a five-headed white elephant that acts as a I don't know, vehicle for the Lord Indra. So I don't believe in all these things, but it makes a good subject for art. So I was kind of trying to use the slabs, the serif, as the trunks of this elephant. So you have two things sorted out, and since I have the thin upper stroke and thick downstroke, it kind of occupies the space, and these two trunks actually form the slab for the serif. And I don't like how this has turned out because two things. So this is a creature that has all five heads attached to the neck. So this particularly feels like there are different elephants all around the room. So I'm just gonna keep experimenting. And finally, I came up with something like this. So where you see all five heads with a central point, and the letter forms have the trunks, basically forming the serif part of the font. So you have these two trunks and a little bit of negative space which you can use colors to fill with, and the top negative space for the letter A formed by one of the ears of one of the elephant heads, and the top serif for the slab part formed by one of the trunks of the fifth elephant. So this is what I'm gonna go with. This is gonna be my theme for 2022 36 Days of Life Challenge, and I really think this is gonna work out for me. If it's not gonna work out, I'm totally fine by that as well. The entire point about participating in this challenge is to try something new and keep experimenting till you find a new style, or till you're satisfied, or till people notice you, right? So that was it about what I'm gonna do for this year's 36 Days of Type challenge. And I can't wait to see what you folks are creating. So whenever you create something, share with the relevant hashtag 36 Days of Type. And I hope this video was a bit helpful to what you might be creating. Thank you, and see you next time.